but also in contributing significantly towards the economic growth and development of the province. The bedrock of financial and strong economy lies in healthy communities. Through the broad spectrum of services that NPOs provide in multiple fields ranging from livelihood interventions to health and education services, they create the necessary environment and develop the necessary skills in our residents to contribute to the strengthening of the regional economy. Thus, to the Gauteng provincial government broadly, NPOs are a critical stakeholder in the provincial economy. Over the past 2 months, beginning on the 20th of May, the provincial government has been hard at work ensuring that compliant, and this is important, compliant NPOs are paid in order that they may continue to render the necessary services to our communities. In this regard, the provincial treasury has been hard at work facilitating payment runs on a daily basis. Between the 20th of May and the 18th of July, 3,031 payments amounting to 792, just over 792 million were processed. In the first quarter, 1,483 transactions amounting to 353 million were processed. In the second quarter, which began in July, 1,548 transactions amounting to 441 million were processed. The number of transactions is per program. As in some cases, NPOs provide multidisciplinary services, resulting in one institution receiving more than one payment based on their service programs. There are currently a few NPOs that have not been paid due to compliance issues. A total of 13 NPOs are under investigation, while 6 have been deemed non-compliant. The outcome of the investigation will guide the next steps insofar as payment is concerned. Where matters of compliance are resolved, payments will be made. In addition to non-compliant NPOs, applications for 23 NPOs have not been found in the system, while 6 NPOs have since been closed or are deemed untraceable. In 2 cases, duplicate payments were made. The provincial treasury is facilitating the resolution of this duplication. We are committed to ensuring that all compliant NPOs receive payments due to them as per the binding service level agreements with the provincial government in order that they may continue with the provision of critical services. Treasury Regulation 8.2.3 provides that unless determined otherwise in a contract or other agreement, all payments due to creditors must be settled within 30 days from receipt of invoice, or in the case of civil claims, the date of settlement or court judgments. However, the Executive Council resolved that all Gauteng provincial government suppliers will be paid within 15 days, and NPOs are no exception. The standard practice is that NPOs are paid every quarter, translating to 4 tranches per annum. As the provincial government rededicate itself to the timeless payment of NPOs, those that are compliant will continue to be paid within 15 days of the quarter that the tranche payment is due. This is the reason that within quarter 2, that began in July, a total of just over 441 million has already been paid by 18 July. In conclusion, the Gauteng provincial government is exploring the possibility of revising our contracts with NPOs to ensure that 3-year contracts are entered into. This will minimize undue red tape for NPOs, ensure long-term planning, and fundamentally provide the necessary job security to those employed within the said institution so that the questions of precarious work within the sector may be alleviated. Details on this planned interventions will be communicated in due course. Additionally, the provincial government will keep the media and general public abreast of developments pertaining to the outcomes of the investigations in the 13 NPOs, as well as the progress with assisting those that are non-compliant to resolve their status so that, where possible, services to our residents may continue to be rendered. We remain unwaveringly committed to working with the NPOs to build stronger communities in Gauteng. Thank you very much, Ms. Mazibuko.
Thank you very much for the update on the payments. I'm sure that colleagues from the media houses are now versed in ensuring that those that have been paid, it's not as if the provincial government is not paying, but we have been paying, and I'm sure that as the Gauteng provincial government, like we're having a long standing relationship with the NPOs, our relationship has actually proven to be mutually beneficial, not only for the parties involved, but also for the broader residences of Gauteng. And the relationship with NPOs has enabled us to continue transforming our societies by building conscious and capable citizens through the provision of integrated social development services. The funding provided to the NPOs through the Gauteng Department of Social Development has provided services to millions of beneficiaries. The work of NPOs is not only an extension of the work the Department of Social Development does, but also an enabler of the responsibility the department has in delivering on its mandate. We are not ashamed to say, on the whole, with few exceptions, that we are proud of the work that is being done by the NPOs. Like with any other relationships, things do fall apart, differences emerge, misunderstandings happen, trust is lost, and sometimes breakups do happen. Despite all this, we as the provincial government and NPOs cannot afford such a state of affairs. The past few months has seen the relationship between the provincial government and the NPOs severely strained. In echoing the words of our Premier, Upanyaza Lisufi, who I quote, he said, "We unreservedly apologize for how things turned out." Close quote. We extend a special apology to the beneficiaries that were affected, be the elderly in the old age homes, be it children who are situated in the child and youth care centers, be it recovering substance abusers in rehabilitation centers, families that depend on food parcels, and many other affected beneficiaries. As the Gauteng Provincial Government 7th Administration, we have prioritized improving the relationship with yourselves as the NPO and fully resuming the delivery of services to beneficiaries. We do this because we care. We have issued interim service level agreements with some NPOs who are eligible for funding to ensure that the payment process for quarters 1 and 2 is fast and remain regular. Part of the delays in the payment of these NPOs were due to the investigations as it was outlined by MEC Maile, and we can assure the nation that the investigations are nearing conclusion and that the NPOs that have been cleared have either been paid their monies or those that are considered to be funded, they will be funded subject to the availability of resources. The department is also involved in various litigation matters with regards to some of the NPOs during the financial year of 2024-2025, and on all occasions the department complied with the provisions of the court orders, and no court order was disrespected that were actually issued against the department. And in these litigation matters, the department agreed to settlements to ensure that the best interests of the beneficiaries are provided for, and this amplified the department's commitment in resolving the NPO's funding process for 2024-2025 amicably. This was also an act of transparency on our side, and this will be one of the hallmarks of the 7th administration. Compliance is the biggest challenge faced by many NPOs. And as the provincial government, we cannot afford to fund non-compliant NPOs. Not only will this be an audit query, but it will also be a clear dereliction of duty and flouting of the PFMA. From time to time, the department hosts workshops and educate our sector about the compliance. Now, part of the work of the department we have undertaken is to advocate for NPOs through the IGR forum meetings, and the advocacy will include issues such as lobbying municipalities to be fast and reasonable in issuing compliance certificates to NPOs, and also, where possible, also waiving some of those that are actually complying, but they can't afford some of those compliance issues. But we hope that municipalities will not be hard-handed when it comes to assisting NPOs in ensuring that they do comply, especially those buildings like whilst we have demonstrated our willingness and commitment to work with the NPO sector, we're also going to hold the sector accountable for the funds the funds that we've dispersed. We hope that the sector will work with us to have ethical, professional, and efficient and robust sector. This will ensure that we strengthen our monitoring and root out corruption and maladministration. The Code of Ethics and Conduct of NGOs that was developed under the auspices of the World Association of Non-Governmental Organizations states that, I open quote, sustainable progress, peace and justice require that all organizations contribute to common good. Thus, an NGO should integrate self-development and service to others, balancing individual public concerns, focusing on higher and broader and more public levels of agreement. As the provincial government, we will expect no less. Strengthening the relationship with the NPO sector is our priority. And in this 7th administration, we will achieve this through quarterly NPO Imbizo session, which will be a platform for empowering NPOs and clearing any issues of misunderstanding and concerns between the parties. Lastly, I wish to invite NPOs to diarize that on the 31st of July, we will be hosting an Imbizo so that then we're also able to iron out some of the challenges, but over and above, agree to be a phambili sesohamba kanjani. Siyabonga kakhulu.
Thank you, MECs. We are also joined, colleagues, by the DDG, DC Vilakazi, for sustainable fiscal and resource management. We also have the acting HOD for the Department of Social Development, and we have the CFO, Mr. Johan Strauss, and the acting HOD is Lebogang. So we will then take questions, colleagues. If we can keep it to maybe 2 issues so that we can move our briefing speedily. And please introduce yourself and the media house that you represent, and then you will pose your question to the MECs, and they will direct them who will then be able to respond. May I see who is interested in taking a bite? Okay, I see Heidi. Who else? Yeah, okay. We have 3 on this side. Doesn't look like we have anybody on that side. And please, no brainwaves, colleagues. We only have these 3. We will start with you now.
It's Heidi.
And
it's Heidi Jackas from ENCA. I just want to ask if you have sat around a table with these NPOs, because they're very, I don't think the word is aggrieved, but they're obviously going through a very difficult time because a lot of them have had to shut down, not being able to provide critical services to those that are part of these NPOs. Have you had a conversation with them, because it seems as though they are in disagreement with the whole approach that you've taken as the department? And then I just want to know, in terms of this growth of 13%, why did you decide to do that? Could you just explain that to us?
Veronica Macaulay from Newsroom Africa. I just want clarity on the 13 NPOs that are under investigation. What were the red flags that popped out for the department while they were investigating these NPOs? I think also then, if we picked up an issue of corruption, which is what sort of caused, the pausing of these subsidies, what are now the measures in picking up issues in terms of how these NPOs are applying for these subsidies, just the contingency measures of how we cannot find ourselves here again. And then I think just for some of the residents that couldn't get the necessary help that they needed from these shelters, from the NGOs, any efforts to try and track them, bring them back, or at least, find them alternative help and care and the support for those whose doors are still open, but they are obviously inundated, they are at full capacity. Yeah.
Thank you.
Good morning, Breiten from Netwerk 24. My question relates to the sustainability of the funding that the government is providing. Is there any alternative funding model that the government is looking at in NPOs and NGOs funding themselves? Because first you indicated that funding was cut, and then you said no, but we are going to assist, which indicates that there is some difficulty on the government side to assist these NPOs. So just some clarity on that. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Just to start from the latter question, government pass is also not increasing. That's what we must also take into cognizance. And I believe that the NPO sector, they must also look at other partners to also fund them. And I usually encourage them that they must target those companies that are listed at the JSE. They must be able to talk to them so that then they also get assistance. Because as government, we can't sustain this. Even the little that we give you, if you request 350 million, won't be able to give you 350 million. We might give you 3 million. So you must consider that as and when you submit your proposal, government looks at those important, pertinent programs that you provide, and they're actually able to fund them. As time goes on, you remember previously they used not to even to fund salaries, but as government we also considered that sometimes the work of a child and care youth professional person in the NPO sector, you may find that may not be able to pay that salary, but as government we've been assisting them to also be able to pay their salaries. They've also been able to assist them to pay for social workers. But as time goes on, we want to urge NPOs not to rely on government 100%, but also to get funding and get other partners. There's quite a lot of organizations, business people that are able to fund. In fact, what I know is that if as a business person or a company, you fund an NPO or do some community work, you do get a tax break. So let them take advantage of that and be able to submit their proposals to that. In responding to Heidi, there is a committee known as Gauteng Care Crisis Committee. We have met with them. They represent all the NGOs and the various sectors of those NGOs. That's why we're able also to track some of those NGOs, especially the shelters that have not received their funding. That is where we're also able to pick up exactly what are the challenges. You find one NGO specializing in 4 programs. So some of the programs might have been affected, others might have been funded. So we're working on ensuring that those that still have not received their money, they're actually able to get it. Some we also discovered through the Gauteng Crisis Committee that they were only funded a bit instead of the whole amount of money that they actually had requested from the department. So as the department, we've been working together with Treasury in ensuring that we check if some of those organizations are not those that were found to have been under investigations. Those that have been cleared, they've actually been paid, even for the second tranche of the second quarter. So we are working, and that's why we are proposing to have another imbizo with them on the 31st of July, so that then we check on all of those that still have got outstanding payments. Others did receive their tranches, but they say they were told not to use all of the money. And I'm still asking by whom. They say it's because they will say they have excess funding. So we're still trying to verify. They're afraid even to spend, let me put it like that. They've received their money, but they're afraid to spend. So working jointly with them in ensuring that they're able to provide those services that they've been doing and continue the wonderful work that they've been doing, including the drop-in centers. The one of the 13 NPOs, I will leave those that know that English, to be able to respond on them, on what were the issues that made them to be investigated. Over to yourselves, Mazibuko.
Yeah, maybe what we should do, the issue of alternative funding. Just to be specific, in this financial year, not this financial year, in this term, for the next 5 years, our budget is 35 billion rand less. Gauteng, provincial government. So we are less 35 billion rand. And I think that's important to note. Of course, the next question you'll ask is, what are we going to do to close that gap? And I'm sure some other day we'll talk to you about that. But we do have plans in place. But now, when you are 35 billion rand less, because 20 billion of that will be funding e-tolls. Yes, so there's a 12 billion rand debt. Then there's a 4.1 billion rand backlog on maintenance of the roads. They must be maintained, those roads. Then there's an interest. The 15 billion is what National Treasury has cut, because when they were cutting, as you know, the economy is not doing well enough. So that constitutes the 35 billion. So that's the first important thing. And it is for that reason that we will work closely with the NGOs, because some of them are implementing programs that have economic spin-offs, and those programs, if properly incubated, could lead into sustainable revenue generation for them and even create jobs. So we are interested in working closely with them. So that's the first point. The second point, I think the 13% growth, the Heidi, it's because that demonstrates the commitment of the provincial government towards the NPO sector, and that we want to work with them, want to make an impact, and that's why we are interested in the type of programs that they offer, because those programs must not be without any impact. They must make an impact. It is for that reason. And I think the MEC did speak about the imbizo on the 31st, and the purpose of that imbizo will be to listen, because the question about tracking those communities which were affected, it will come through that imbizo, because that imbizo is everyone who's in the sector, and I'm sure the MEC wants to hear, listen, and out of that imbizo, she will bring a report to the provincial cabinet, so that if there are things which needs us to intervene on, we will definitely do that. The issue of the investigations, it's fine. You can deal with the acting HOD without getting into a lot of details, because the matter is subject to care. So I would have not responded to it, but HOD.
Okay. Good morning, everyone, MECs and members of the media. Just before I delve into the issue of investigations, I think it's appropriate to mention that our approach in all of this process is developmental rather than punitive. So we seek by all means to assist NPOs to remain functional and to remain opened. Hence, quite a few NPOs that were under investigations have been cleared, as MEC has mentioned earlier. Not only cleared, but also we have restored their funding. But there are some which have contravened the law, and as such we have referred their matter for further investigation, even by independent institutions like SABC and Hawks. We are advised by our legal team And it shows that MEC is also a lawyer, that we should not really engage much. So we were advised really not to engage much on this one. However, when the investigations are done, they are completed, the department should be able to either issue a press statement or host such a press conference to give a detailed blow-by-blow report in respect of the outcomes of investigations. Currently, they are at a very sensitive stage. Lastly, there was a question about the beneficiaries, if those that were affected by this whole problems of NPO funding, as to what is the department doing about them. We have redirected them to other NPOs to ensure that even though what we call a primary NPO that was giving them services is not fully functional due to funding issues, they still get support elsewhere. So we always redirect our beneficiaries. We always make sure that they do not suffer in any way. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you, colleagues. Okay, I see we also do not have any follow-ups. That brings us to the end of our media briefing. Those who would like to have one-on-one, please let us know. MEC Mazibuko will be available to deal with the one-on-ones. Thank you very much. Thank you, colleagues.
No.
So we come out of that. That is, of course, the Gauteng MEC for Finance and Economic Development, Lebogang Maile, as well as the MEC for Social Development there, Faith Mazibuko, just basically bringing us up to speed on that funding crisis that is severely impacting NPOs as well as NGOs in and around Gauteng. Of course, touching there on some of these NPOs and NGOs that are currently right now under investigation and subsequently delaying payments, and also giving us that amount that was paid as of the 18th of July. He says, of course, there that some of these, of course, NGO contracts with the various NPOs will also go under review. This will ensure everything is above board so that the Gauteng communities can be served and serviced as well. And also went on to speak about compliance and how it continues to be a stumbling block when it comes to these NPOs as well as NGOs, and that also delays some of these payments. And of course, MEC for Social Development there, Faith Mazibuko, saying that they will be having that all-important Imbizo on the 31st of July. This will also be a way of charting a way forward with these NPOs as well as NGOs sealing